fries. Simple, delicious, flexible. The food that is capable of turning almost any dish into an all-star. It's a food that is so good, even high-class restaurants like to serve it with their steaks and call them frites so that the people they're serving don't know they just threw some parsley, salt, and garlic powder on some McDonald's fries and called it a day. They're easy to love, easy to make, and a hallmark of American cuisine today. So what would you do if you went out to eat one day and you ordered fries and the waiter just handed you a potato? No long cuts of deep fried goodness, just a potato. Confused, you look at the potato and then at the waiter. "It's good, just try it," he says. Feeling adventurous, you shrug and take a wholesome bite of the potato, and it tastes amazing. Why, this potato tastes exactly like perfectly cooked, heavily salted French fries. This is Wardust. It's a potato that tastes like the most amazing French fries I have ever tasted. Let me explain. This game looks like a literal potato, and I'm not exaggerating. This game legitimately looks like the Nintendo 64 and the very first Sony PlayStation got together and tried to make baby, and this is what came out. I'm pretty sure there's a kid somewhere out there freaking out over this. Regardless of looking like a potato, it tastes so good. I mean, the gameplay is just so much fun, and don't get me wrong, it can be clunky, and it's definitely not elegant, much like French fries, but what it does is excel at taking a simple, well-loved concept and porting it into VR. Simple, delicious, flexible, not fancy, not elegant, not intricate or complicated in any way, shape, or form. It's like cardboard or a 2x4. This design is as old as time, and boy is it butt ugly, but you still see a lot of people using cardboard and 2x4s today, don't you? You know why? Because they work so well. Their simplicity by design is what makes them so incredibly useful. Enough with the analogies and metaphors to real life. I think you probably understand what I'm trying to say by now. This game by no means is pretty, and I'm pretty sure I even threw up in my mouth the first time I ever fully loaded in the game. Polish is definitely not the first word that comes to mind when I think of Wardust, but holy this game is insane levels of fun. I'm not kidding, it actually might be more fun than Onward and Pavlov combined. And if you've been following this channel for any length of time, you know that Onward is by far one of my favorite VR shooter games to play. Let's start from the very beginning. Wardust is a 32 versus 32, that's 64 players total if I did my fuzzy math correct, big battle VR shooter. It essentially works exactly like you would imagine it does. On each map are a series of points in which you and your team must capture and hold each point to slowly drain the enemy team of tickets. The first team to reach 0 tickets loses. There are 4 distinct classes you can choose from, each with unique loadouts: Assault, Engineer, Support, and Scout, and again, have the loadouts that you would pretty much expect them to have. Assault will use your standard assault rifle platforms, Engineer is a rocket launcher loadout, Support uses submachine guns, and Scout is your sniper class. It's Battlefield. Like, literally, it's just Battlefield in VR, and I don't know how else to describe it. Even the experience and ranking system is pretty much identical to Battlefield's. Eventually, after ranking up enough, you unlock new weapons, attachments, and skins for the weapons for each class once you use them enough. The vehicles are insanely fun, and honestly might be the main reason to play this game on its own. No joke, I would pay money just to drive the vehicles around in this game. Ever flown an Apache attack helicopter in VR and strafed enemy infantry at a chapel? Ever wanted to lob tank shells at dive bombing F-22s in VR? Ever wanted to ride an ATV in VR that goes so fast it feels like you'll turn into human toothpaste if you wind up bailing for any reason, and making jumps that would literally destroy a lesser chassis? This is the game for you. The vehicle controls are executed just so perfectly. They're easy to learn, intuitive to use. For example, on the helicopters, your left arm controls the pitch and your right arm controls the yaw. Then you just hit the accelerator with the left trigger and you're off. All the other vehicle controls more or less operate the same. The left controller handles acceleration and movement of the body, right controller handles aiming and shooting in the weapon systems. Even the shooting of your small arms is so on point in this game. If you know anything about me, You know I tend to prefer immersion and realism over the feeling of playing an arcade-like video game in VR, because you're playing virtual reality. You want to feel immersed in the world you're in and feel like you're actually doing the thing that you paid money to do. Don't get me wrong, there's a place for it, and point-and-shoot gun mechanics work exceedingly well for games like Pavlov or Contractors, but the gun physics in this game are so spot on, it is crazy. The bullet drop over long distances, having to shoot ahead of your opponent if they're moving laterally far away from you, it all makes you feel like you're really shooting a gun and you're really in the middle of a war zone, and it feels amazing. Now the sound bites for the weapons still sound like they were generated from a Windows 98 PC shooter, and the guns still look like they were ported from Roblox, but I give props where massive props are due. No game is going to be perfect, and make no mistake, this game certainly is not. It has a lot that could be improved on, and that's probably being a bit conservative. But the core of this game, the meat and potatoes, the metaphorical French fry, if you will, is so rock solid, has such a based foundation that with a little bit of love and effort and a lot of resources, this game could go from just being another VR shooter to being a legitimate workhorse of a franchise in VR. I'm not kidding, I'm not exaggerating, and I'm not fluffing this game. No joke, if the developers hired some AAA game developers to help polish their game, make it a little prettier, fix a few of the weapon handling mechanics of the game, this title would be the premier VR shooter franchise for years to come, bar none. I truly believe that. Speaking of clumsy mechanics, it does feel like this game is not sufficiently optimized for Valve Index, which for reference is what I played this on. Even in the pre-spawn loading area, it only has a picture of a Vive controller on the wall to show you all the controls, basically leaving anyone with any other headset to fend for themselves. As a result, learning all the proper handling of weapons and controls for doing a lot of things took me a lot longer than normal to learn about and get the hang of. The guns were really awkward to use, as I could only squeeze my controller to hold it and then squeeze again to release, rather than having the luxury of squeezing while holding and then releasing when I want to drop my weapon. I also wish the pistols were a bit more interactive. Once the mags are out, it auto ejects without any required input, and once you pop the new mag in, it chambers the next round on its own. The autonomy feels more like laziness rather than convenience or enhancing the gameplay on the developer's part, and that's definitely something I didn't like at all. Again, I play VR to be immersed and feel like I'm taken to a different world. Auto-loading pistols doesn't do it for me. Sniping was massively fun though. Like I mentioned before, the sniper rifle model looked like it was ported from Roblox. I'm really impressed with what the developers did to cure the jittery weapon problem so common in a lot of VR shooters nowadays. The shooting and aiming is just so buttery smooth. Even without a gun stock, it's addicting, and as a result, it just feels much more realistic and immersive. This is particularly noticeable with the sniper rifle, where aiming down sights is usually a nightmare in games like Onward or Contractors unless you have a bipod attachment of some kind. In Wardust, it feels like the appropriate amount of natural movement and jitteriness one would expect from a scope and rifle of that caliber. I did notice an issue where people turned into amorphous blobs or just straight up disappeared at very long ranges with the scope, but again, that seems more like just poor optimization and requires a little love in the rendering department to fix. I have to say I'm also really impressed with the lack of latency problems in Wardust compared to other VR games where it feels like I've been shot even after I've been in cover for a second or longer. I never noticed any major lag spikes or latency or connectivity issues within the game, indicating to me that the servers they're using are pretty solid, which is even more remarkable for a VR shooter, let alone some desktop shooters nowadays. All in all, I think Wardust is fantastic value for any game, especially for a VR title. There's infinite replayability due to the multiplayer aspect, and it's just so much fun. Legitimately, probably my new favorite VR shooter game. It has its issues, don't get me wrong, I went through them in pretty explicit detail, but even despite all these problems, the game is still a massive blast to play. This really makes me particularly excited for the future of this title, and I can't wait to see what the developers do to continue adding to and improving on the already incredibly solid foundation they have built for themselves. If you're still watching at this point, it's probably because you really enjoyed the video. With that in mind, I was wondering if you could do me a huge favor. Hit the like button, smash that like button, and slap that notification bell. It's a really easy free way to help support the channel while also making sure that you won't miss any of my future videos. As always, leave a comment in the comments section down below and let me know what you think of War Dust. Finally, be sure to share this video. I don't have any agencies or large organizations helping my channel grow, so the best thing that you can do is to tell people that this video exists. I'm gonna get out of here. This tank isn't gonna drive itself. Thank you so much for watching, ladies and gents. I love each and every one of you beautiful feather muckers. Gramsy out.